What's going on, Jerome's? As of right, Minnesota Vikings have not fired head coach Mike Zimmer currently, whatever. But it is largely expected that Zimmer is going to be moving out to pasture this offseason. The reports are the Vikings are already kicking the tires, lighting the fires on some candidates, and we want to do a personal ranking. Again, personal, my opinion. And opinions are like a-holes. Everyone's got one, right? Especially a-holes. That's two a-holes. All right, so we're going to go through and rank my choices to be the next head coach of the Minnesota Vikings. And a lot of it is, most of these guys are coordinators because that's just how it works. You know, you go to the OC or you go to DC, then you move up to HC, all the C's, right? But just because you're good at X's and O's does not mean that you're going to be a good head coach, right? And there's lots of coaches that are great coordinators, bad head coaches, a lot of bad head coaches that were great coordinators, and vice versa, right? But you need a leader of men. You need someone who is going to unite the locker room and have their players run through a wall for them. You need someone who can manage the game. You need someone who can manage personnel. So, yeah, that's my biggest take. And some of these guys don't have the pedigree of some of the other play callers, but that's not really that important to me. But we'll get into our list. So let's go. So this is not in order right now, but you got Leftwich, Bieniemy, Kellen Moore, Hackett, Buddy Wackett, Brian Daboll, Josh McDaniels, Doug Pederson. We got the wrong Doug, classic mix-up. Kevin O'Connell, Matt Eberflus. Never know how to pronounce his name. Raheem Morris, Dave Tube, Chris Tabor, Matt Campbell, Lane Kiffin, as well as Mike LaFleur, because that would be hilarious. The LaFleur brothers adding some spice to the border battle like we need anymore. So we're going to, what are we going to do? We're just going to take these off the board and just sort of rank them. I guess we could do that. It's like I should have had a plan going into this. So we'll start at the bottom of these 15. So we'll go Chris Tabor, where I understand the jump from special teams coordinator to head coach. It's a pretty big one, and it's one that isn't very common. John Harbaugh did it. That's really the only notable one besides Joe Judge, and that really hasn't worked out yet either. But there's just something about special teams because you're involved with the entire roster, and the third phase is extremely important, especially if you're rebuilding a bad team. And Tabor has been really solid for the Bears and all the various stops that he's had throughout his career. Plus, since Matt Nagy, fake-ass Brad Childress, is going to get washed out with the Bears, so he may be available. So we'll see. Next up, where are we going to go with this? All right. Number 14, we'll go with Kevin O'Connell, the OC of the Rams. Now, OC under Sean McVay is always kind of tough because you have to parse out what he does versus what McVay does, etc. But O'Connell is one of the more up-and-coming guys in the league. He was formerly a quarterback guru, getting guys ready for the draft before taking on a coaching position. Played at the University of San Diego, was a backup for the Patriots and a couple other teams around the league. So it's if you want to go with the mold of the young offensive-minded head coach, which I think that they should do, even though, like I said, I'm pretty agnostic as long as the guy is a good leader, but it would be a bonus if he's offensive-minded because you don't have to change the offense every single time like you would if you had a defensive head coach or a special teams head coach, because then, you did well, your OC is going to get poached, and then your quarterback and offenses start all over again with a new offense. So, yeah, that's no bueno there. Next up, I should have put these in order to begin with. So 13. So Nathaniel Hackett, he's seen as a bright, up-and-coming guy, a Packers OC, but again, with Matt LaFleur, the 12-year-old boy, it's hard to parse out what Hackett does, what LaFleur does, etc. And it's a bit like Andy Reid and all of his OCs, and of course the Vikings. They bit one with Brad Childress and didn't quite work out, whatever. But the Eagles also bit one with Doug Pederson and then won a Super Bowl, even though they ran Doug out of town because he had disagreements with management, but that's whatever there. But Hackett coming across the river would actually be kind of funny too. But it's really tough to give the greasy, grimy Green Bay Packers any credit. But their offense is kind of credit. I can't do it. I can't do it. Next up. Who are we going to go with? All right, 12. Matt Eberflus. So I really do respect Eberflus because the Colts defense has been solid. Also, remember, he was hired before Frank Reich came in. So he was not a Frank Reich hire, but they worked together and have had a great relationship. So I think that speaks a lot to Matt's character as well as ability to get along with people as well as manage manage a room, right? So I understand it, but I do understand if the Wolves want to go away from the defensive-minded head coach, because they had one in Zimmer, they had one in Leslie Frazier, and maybe it's time for the pendulum to swing. So that's why he's pretty low. Next up, 11. So Raheem Morris, who was formerly head coach of the Buccaneers, took them to the playoffs, had 10-6 season with Josh Freeman. He's really rehabbed his career. He's at a number of stops. He's actually the Falcons' interim head coach last year after they fired DQ. Nailed it. Yes. And then Raheem Morris. I don't know. Like, the Rams' defense is pretty damn amazing, but I mean, it's pretty easy to coordinate a defense when you got Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey. I do think that Morris will get a couple of hacks at head coaching interviews, but for the Vikings specifically, it's a lot like Eberflus. If you want to go defense again 3 times in a row, I don't know, man. Next up, go number 10, Dave Tube, the chief special teams coordinator, and he's been one of the best special teams coordinators for a hot second for a number of years. He was rumored to have the Colts job in the bag before it went to McDaniels and then before it went to Frank Wright, but whatever. His name gets brought up a lot in terms of head coaching candidacy, and I do like Tube. Chief special teams have always been stellar, and like we said, it's about management of the game, management of personnel. Special teams coordinators work with the entire team, and they manage the third phase, which is an extremely important phase of the game. Plus, it comes down to field position, comes down to management, etc. So there you go. Next up, what are we gonna go with? Oh, so we got Mike LaFleur, and we screwed up his labeling. Jets, offensive coordinator. Nailed it. Unless he got the Ole Miss job and we didn't know about it. But Mike LaFleur, so he's been on the job 1 year with the Jets. They've done some decent things with Mike White and Zach Wilson. It's starting to come around a little bit. I don't think that he would jump the job right away, because I don't think that he necessarily will be in line for a head coaching job this time around. Maybe he'll get some interviews. Maybe he'll get some steam. Maybe this is just laying the groundwork for the next couple of years. Plus his stupid brother, I'm sure that will give him a little bit of gravitas as well. But like we said, it would be fun just adding that to the border battle. But we'll see. Next up, who we gotta go with? I am going to go with McDaniels. So there is a lot of questions about McDaniels when he's not next to Belichick, if he can be that guy. Because remember, he had the Colts job a couple years ago and then just left, just walked out. He's like, no. So that speaks to character. His time in Denver was not great. He drafted Tebow in the first round. But McDaniels, respect, seems to be an offensive genius. I think that he can manage a game well. But also, you can look pretty good when you have Tom Brady as well as Mac Jones, who's been one of the better rookie quarterbacks in recent memory. So that's whatever there. Just personality-wise, I don't know. I don't know. Next up, speaking of personality, so Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin got a bad rap in the NFL because he got the Raiders job way too early. He was immature. He was stupid. And yeah, it was a mess. The whole Jamarcus Russell thing, whatever. His time at USC was a trash heap. His time at Tennessee was a trash heap. But he's rehabbed his career, man. That's Nick Saban just rehabbing coaches' careers. And Lane Kiffin with Ole Miss, he's been good, man. He's been really, really good. I think that he's matured. I think that he is a true leader of men at this point. And he's not that entitled douchebag little kid like he was when he had his first head coaching job. So I would be up for it. Plus, offensive-minded guy. Yeah, we'll see. Next up. Man, it's going to be hard to parse these ones out. Could we just do like a 6-way tie? All right, so 6. I love Matt Campbell. I do love Matt Campbell. I don't think that he would make the trek up I-35. I think that he's going to stick in Ames for a while, but he is a program builder. I think that he's a true motivator. I think that he understands people. I think his EQ is extremely high, and I think that he is a phenomenal coach. Now, will he ever see the peak, have peak success in college football at Iowa State? I don't know. It's not the easiest place to recruit to. Plus, are you ever really going to win the Big 12? Consistently? I don't know. I don't really know. But if I had to pick one college coach to make the jump to the NFL, it would be Matt Campbell. Yeah, it's kind of, I know it sounds crazy. It's like you could say like, oh, Lincoln Riley, oh, Brian Kelly, screw Brian Kelly right in the face. No. Oh, it could be Saban. No, it won't be Saban again. No. Next up, man, these top 5 are gonna be tough. So 5, you got Kellen Moore, where I respect Kellen Moore. as a quarterback. I liked him at Boise State. I think that he's a good up-and-coming offensive mind. The offense is a lot more of him as opposed to stupid Mike McCarthy down in Dallas, but there's just too much inconsistency at times. You have all these superstars. You have Dak, you have Zeke, you have Pollard, you have CD, you have Amari, you had Gallup, and you just can't find any consistency. And sometimes I think that he does get a little bit too heavy-handed with throwing the ball. They do get away from running it, which I understand. With Zimmer, it was a run, pass, pass, punt, run, pass, punt. But with the Cowboys, it could be pass, punt. So both of them are bad, and I think that is just that comes down to maturity. I think that comes down to learning on the job. I think that Clint Kubiak was going through a little bit of those growing pains as well. But I think in 5 years, is Kellen Moore going to be one of the better play callers in the league? Yes. I think that he can learn a lot from his mistakes. But as of right now, he's sort of falling into the Jason Garrett trap of throw, punt, throw, punt. So that's why he's a little bit lower on this list. Next up, number 4. So I'm going to be a complete hypocrite. And yeah, guys who just throw all the time. Brian Daboll with the Bills, where, the Bills offense, it sputtered a little bit this year. Last year was gangbusters, but I love that Daboll has developed Josh Allen, which is going to be an extremely important job with the Vikings' future franchise quarterback, whether it's Kellen Moore, whether it's someone else, don't really know. And also, so if you read up on Daboll, like he's served with Saban, he has served with Belichick, and there's been times where he and Belichick butted heads. Like it wasn't like Mangini level, but Daboll is not afraid to stand up for himself, and I like that. I do dig that. And by all accounts, he does seem like a player's coach. He does seem like a solid leader. Obviously a great offensive mind as well. So that's a bonus. So I could get behind Brian Daboll. Like I said, these top 5, I'll top 4. Kellen Moore to me needs a little bit more seasoning. I would maybe even bump Matt Campbell up above Kellen Moore, but it's whatever there. But just a little bit. Next up, number 3, Doug. I understand. This is an unpopular selection because Doug and the Eagles. But Doug was not fired because of performance in Philly. Doug was fired in Philly because he didn't get along with Howie Roseman. He didn't get along with ownership. And maybe Doug got a little bit of ego. But hey, if you win a Super Bowl, you're allowed just a little bit of ego, right? And he will gamble. He developed a good relationship with Nick Foles and Carson Wentz, and also had a good staff under him. He had Frank Reich. He had John DiFilippo. But he's a guy who's been there, done that, got the T-shirt. Also, he's used to winning big games inside of US Bank Stadium. Plus, it seems like it would just be poetic justice, right? Lose to the Eagles 38-7, and you fire your head coach who lost 38-7, and then you hire the guy who beat your ass 38-7. Maybe. Last 2. It's a toss-up. All right, number 2, Byron Leftwich, where I love Leftwich as a leader, man. Like, you could just tell when he was at Marshall, when he was in the league, that players just gravitated towards him. And even when he was a former number 7 overall pick, I believe, from back in the day. Started with the Jaguars, then bounced around as a backup. You could tell, especially when he was backing up Big Ben with Pittsburgh, the reverence, the respect that all the players had for Byron Leftwich, and that carries over to him in coaching. And, Bruce Arians has been propping up Leftwich. He's been making him the OC and the play caller. It's hard for Bruce Arians to give up play call, man. But Leftwich is that guy, and he's developed a good rapport with Tom Brady. Of course, that's pretty easy to do. But Leftwich, I think that he's going to be a stellar head coach in this league. I think that he's a great OC. I think he's a great play caller. But more than that, I think that he's just a great leader. Because it goes back to, there was a game, I think it was Marshall versus Akron, back in the day, where Leftwich, who's not mobile to begin with, but he broke his tibia or like his shin bone or something like that. And instead of coming out of the game, his offensive lineman picked him up and carried his ass down the field as they were driving. I think they won that game. But that just shows the respect, the love that the teammates have for Leftwich. It's like, hey, we understand you broke your leg, but you're out here and we're going to carry you. And I respect that. I love that, man. All right, next up, or lastly, number 1 choice is still Eric Bieniemy. It is, where Eric Bieniemy was the last coach that Adrian Peterson truly respected. And rookie Adrian Peterson just starting out in this league, and you saw that he stood up straight, he looked people in the eye, and Adrian Peterson has had his ass kissed from Pee Wee football, high school, Oklahoma, etc. But Eric Bieniemy gave him some tough love. He gave him exactly what Adrian Peterson needed. Eric Bieniemy is not afraid of prima donnas. Look at the Chiefs. That is a team of prima donnas. And you talk about Mahomes, you talk about Kelsey, talk about Tyreek. They all credit Eric Bieniemy. And I understand it's tough to get out of Andy Reid's shadow. That's not a weight joke. But Bieniemy, I think that he can do it. And he has called plays at times under Andy Reid. So that's not an issue. But I think that Bieniemy is a true leader of men. I think that he will rally a locker room. I think that an entire team will be ready to run through a wall for Eric Bieniemy. So that's what I'm talking about. Where, yeah, X's and O's, it's great. And if they're a beautiful offensive mind, that's even better. That's a plus. But I want a leader. I want someone who will take ownership of a situation like, hey, this is on me. I want to make this team better, and we're going to do it together. As opposed to, it's not my fault. I'm going to throw player XYZ under the bus. I'm going to throw my GM. I'm going to throw my assistants that I hired indirectly under the bus with all of my stupid comments. No. So give me Bieniemy, Leftwich, Pederson, win, play, show. Also, love me some Daboll. I like Kellen Moore, but if it was 2 years down the line and the Vikings need a head coach, which I hope not, then give me some Kellen Moore. But yeah, as of right meow, that's our list. That's our top 15. What are your thoughts on our thoughts? Let us know in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support the work? Put a little something in the Venmo. But until next time, Skol, production value.